Hey there, Statchman with Statcherman Custom Holsters. So I've taken some questions recently from some people who wanted a little bit of insight on how to do an adjustment on a Kydex holster. So thought I'd take a few minutes here and show you some of the keys to having using successfully making an adjustment on a holster. Now what I've got here is just an old Glock 19 that I put together a long time ago, and this is kind of my experiment holster that I do various things on to see how it reacts. So a couple of things to note about this when you are doing an adjustment to the to a Kydex holster is that you typically would want to work with the body side or the inside of the holster rather than working on the outside. If you do have nice definition on the outside, the last thing you want to do is apply too much heat. As you can see, the inside of this, because I've heated it up so many times, is really soft and round looking rather than having the nice definition that you get from a proper mold. Other thing to note here is that while you do see this, you shouldn't actually have the trigger, the ejector port should not be a point of retention. So you may leave that out or fill it in, as they do actually have it filled in on this particular mold to provide clearance for that, because that'll just rip your Kydex up. So to do the adjustments and those primary and secondary retention points, a primary retention point would be on the trigger guard. Secondary retention points would be in various areas of the frame, depending on what gun that you've got. So ultimately, to work with this, if you do have a heat gun, just put the heat gun on the lowest setting. If you don't have a heat gun, I do know some people that have successfully made adjustments using just a hair dryer, because what you want to do is just introduce enough heat to the trigger guard area to make an adjustment, tighten up the material so that rather than having some rattle, which you might get after making your own holster, or depending on whether or not you've got it too hot or something has happened. I would note that if you do have any warranty issues with the manufacturer, to consult them prior to making any adjustments. But if it's a very small adjustment, you might actually be able to get away with it. So just caveat emptor in that case. Just use the lowest setting on your heat gun here, and I'll just kind of wave the heat around just to kind of introduce the heat to the Kydex. And you see me coming off of it, because if you apply the heat too directly, what that's going to do is it's going to gloss the material, because the heat's going to go in too quickly. And you can probably see some glossing from some of the previous attempts that I've done just to work with this, to see how quickly, how fast I can get it, how quickly I can get it. And it doesn't take much heat to get this to a soft stage. As you can see here, it's already pliable. So the trick on this is to just take it with both thumbs and just get a wet rag, and then just squeeze on both sides of the trigger guard, pushing down. Now, there's no honor in going fast in this case. You don't win any races. And what the wet rag does is it just pulls the heat off, so you can feel what you're doing, but doesn't actually go too quickly. So you can see we've taken a lot of the play out with that very small adjustment. Pushing in more on the left-hand side here, what that's going to do is as the material softens up, if it's too soft, that's where you get the play. So we got much better retention on here. It doesn't come out. Retention is kind of one of those things that was just sort of a personal thing. And the key is ultimately to just get enough material back behind the trigger guard and around the trigger guard in terms of your impression to hold the gun tightly. Secondary retention points that you can put are right behind the trigger guard, depending on, a Glock is relatively straight, but if you do have something like a Ruger, for example, you can actually pinch the material. Again, go real slow, introduce a little bit of heat, but pinch right behind the trigger guard or along the top of the slide, just to take out any play if you do have any forward or backwards play in the holster. But this one, I think, is a lot better than it was. Testing the retention, wait for it to cool down completely, because what might be good when it's still somewhat hot may actually end up too tight for you. And just go slow, be patient, and that should be all you need in order to do an adjustment on the Kydex holster. Just keep in mind to introduce the heat slowly, and have fun with the projects. We all like working with Kydex. So I'm Caleb with Stature Man Custom Holsters. I appreciate the time, and we'll see you later. Thanks.